Hello coders, this is Pisky here. Welcome back to another YouTube tutorial. In this tutorial, I want to show you how you can integrate your Spring Boot project with Keycloak. So I walk you through the process of integrating Keycloak. It is an open source identity and access management solution with a Spring Boot application for enhanced security and authentication. Keycloak provides features like single sign-on or Auth2, making it a powerful tool for managing user authentication and authorization. So the topics that what we are going to cover in this tutorial: we want to set up the Keycloak on our VPS server, creating a realm and client. So I walk you through that process, adding Keycloak dependencies on your Spring project, configuring application properties so that you'll be able to integrate to your Keycloak, and also adding some secure endpoints and then testing the project. The first one is to run the docker run command, or creating the Docker Composer file. For me, I prefer to use this Docker Composer file. It's easy to understand and easy to update. So let me show you let's create a Docker Composer file in our server. So in your server, log into your server, and then here I will create a new folder and I call it Keycloak. Then I'll get into that folder by cd, and I will do nano, and the name of the file will be Docker Compose Keycloak. So after doing that, I will go back here, and this is going to be the information of our that you want to add into our compose file. I think you're familiar with Docker Compose file. So in this file, the service that we are going to use is Keycloak, and the image is JBoss Keycloak, and we want to map the port 9081 to port 88. So 9081 will be the port that we are going to have, which is the external port, and the application, the Keycloak, is running on 88. So ingress, this is going to be our ingress port, and the user will be admin, and the Keycloak password will be password. So after doing this, you can save it by clicking Control X and type Y and press enter. So after doing that, you have to run this command, which is Docker Composer appd. Copy this one and then do this. So it will download the image, and also the application will run there. So after doing this, we can try to access it on this address, which is Keycloak. We want to access it on the port 9081, but right now we have a firewall. So if you try to access this one on this port, what was the ingress port? 9081. We can't access it right now because of we don't have the Keycloak subdomain. We don't have it right now, and it will be HTTP also. So trying to access this one, it won't work because our server requires HTTPS, and also this port, we didn't open this port 9081. So for security reason, I want to enable HTTPS and create a subdomain for this application. So let's now go in here. Let's do this. Let's create a subdomain. So let's create this one, this subdomain, keycloak.code with BISC. We are using Nginx, so we want to add this server block, which is keycloak.code with BISC. If our URL matches this one, we want to forward the request to this IP address. That's all, which is 90 81, which is running on the Docker. So let's do this. Nano. Then after doing this, let's copy this block. So it's reverse proxying. Then we can paste this. Right, so our application Keycloak is running on 9081. So if on our subdomain, if you type keycloak.co.com, it will open the what? The Keycloak portal. So Control X, save, and press enter. So after doing this, let's check if everything is okay here. This command, we are adding this Keycloak into the sites enabled for Nginx. So now let's test if this file is correct by running this command, if you don't have any error in it. So far everything is okay. Then here we are supposed to restart Nginx. So before I restarted Nginx, there are things that I have to do. Let me create a subdomain which is Keycloak on my Contabo. I'm hosting my domain on Contabo. For you, if you have another provider that you use, you can use that one. So let me open the Contabo portal and I'll show you what you can do. So in here, I will just copy this, the IP address of your server, and I put my IP address in here, which is here, and here I want to add the Keycloak subdomain. So for the Keycloak subdomain, I have to come here and let's copy the Keycloak, this one, and we can copy this and I can open again this one. This is going to be the name, which is keycloak.codewithbc.com. So after doing this, I then click create record. So the Keycloak, this one, I have created a record of type A, and this is the IP address. So you can do it on your, if you are using a GoDaddy, if you are using AWS, you can just do the same. Just create a subdomain and pointing to your VPS server. So after doing this, I'm now okay. So let me do this. Let me restart the Nginx of my server. I hope I don't kill anything. And after doing that, I can check the status if it's okay. Okay, it restarted 10 seconds ago, and I can check if I'm still able to access code with BISC. So it means everything is okay. Yeah, everything is okay. I'm still able to access my domain. So after doing this, I need to regenerate the certificate. I want to create a certificate for keycloak.codewithbisc.com and this one for code with BISC, so that I don't affect the other certificates. So let me do that by going in here, and I can do this, and I'll generate an SSL certificate, and I click renew. Extend, you can just type E. If you want to know more about these things, you can watch my DevOps tutorial where I bought a domain and configured the server and Nginx. So watch those tutorials. They are there on my YouTube. So after doing this, all these 3 certificates were generated for our application. So after doing this, we know that our application is still running. So we can click this endpoint and see if you can see the dashboard. Currently it's the application is not available, so let's check why the application is not available. Okay, I think I know why the application is not available. Let's say docker ps. Let's see. Nothing is running in here. We don't have any process. So let's try to run, let's say ls -la. We have this doc compose file. So you just say doc compose. What I can do right now, I can just copy this and check if you don't have any error. We just say up and we can see it running on the logs. It will run with logs. Okay, docker compose not found but can be installed. So let me try to install the docker compose. I think this is the error that we got previously. Let's install docker compose, then press Y. While it is installing, let me go above here and copy this. For if it's docker compose up -d, it requires the application to run in background. So let me copy that one so that it will run in backgrounds. Then I will paste this and I'll do this. As you can see right now, it's now pulling the image which is in our docker compose YAML. After doing that, the application will run. Let's wait and see. So I know that the application was not running because I got 502. If you get this status code 502, 503, it means your service is not running. So the Nginx was able to route my request to my service, but the service wasn't running. So we will run this. We will run this command later on after the docker compose finish its startup and installation. Then we can see. Creating docker compose cloak, I think right now. So let me just say docker ps if you see if any process right now. Right now we have this docker which is running on this. It's now running and you can see it's now on port 9081. That's the one that we configured in our Nginx, and the application is running on port 8080. So after doing this, let's run now this thing. Yeah, we are in here now. You can see we are now on Keycloak dashboard. So this is the let's go to the administration console. So the username and password is this one that we put in our docker compose YAML. So just copy the username is admin and the password is password. So I will try to log in with these details and the password is password and I will log in. I just say never. Okay, it's a weak password. That's why I'm getting this error. I think now we are happy. We have managed to set up our Keycloak. So right now, there are things that we are supposed to do. We want to create a room here. We want to create a user. We want to create a row and a row here and assign this row to a user and try to log in. So let's go step by step with our blog. So after doing this, as you can see right now, we want to create a room, and this one we call it Spring Boot Keycloak. Let's create this room. Let's just copy as it is and follow the instructions. Let's create a room. and the name we can call it this one, Spring Boot Keycloak, and we can click create. Yeah, the room is created successfully. Let's just follow the steps. After creating a room, now we need to create a client for our room. So we need a new client called Authentication Client ID that we are going to use for login request. So let's navigate to the client and add a client, and then we can click save. Here on our clients, here in this room, so we want to create a new client, just click here, and then the client ID, I will just say authentication client ID, and on the root URL, don't do anything, just click save. So after doing this, we have the client, and we want to add our URL, which is our base. Which one? Let's look for the blog. There's a URL that we are going to add, this one. So click save, and invalid redirect URL, just copy this one. Since our application is running on port 9095, let's see which our application is running on which port before we do that. It's running on port 9095, so let's do that. So we can go on invalid redirect URIs, valid here, and we just say it will redirect to the application which is running on. This is a redirect after a successful login, and after doing that, we just click save. So after doing this, we need to create a user. So this user, the username, I will call it code with bisq, and the password 1234. It's okay. So let me create a username code with bisq. Let's go to this user sections, and let's create a new user. Add a user. Currently we don't have any user, so username, I will say code with bisq. User enabled, on, email verified. Let's just keep it off. And for the first name, just say code with bisq. Yeah, this is our last name, and our email will be code with bisq@gmail.com. Let's copy and see everything is okay. That's okay. Let's click save. So after doing this, let's go to the credentials, and I will use test 1 2 3 4. I will just want to follow to avoid errors. Let's go here on credentials section, put 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 temporary on. No, I just set it to temporary to off, so that the user cannot change the password. So after doing this, I think we are okay. Okay, and then we set the password 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. Set the password. I sure I want to set password for this user, and I'll set this one to okay. So I forgot to turn it to off, so let me delete this one. We don't want to verify this. I will delete this and click save. No action required to change the password. User enabled, true. Email verified. Then after doing this, we have to go to role mappings. So before we do that, we want to create a new row. So let's create a new row. So let's go to the rows and create a new row. So we need to assign so on our rows, we want to create a new row called general, and we need to assign it here. So I think I skipped the step of creating a row here. So we are supposed to go to a row and create a new row called general, this one. So just copy this one and go to rows, and here let's create a new row. So this is how you manage your rows. You just say general row for every user. So each user we want to assign this row. Yeah. After doing that, let's go to users. And we want to see, we do view all users, and we click this user. Then we go to row mappings. This is the row. So you want to assign this row to this user. Then we select this row. So after doing this, assign rows, we have assigned this row, which is general, to this user, and we can remove this one, default row Spring Boot Cloak. This one we can remove, or we can leave it as it is, or let me remove this one, and we will leave this user with one row, which is general. So after doing this, I think we can start test our application. So we can open Postman if you have a Postman. So if you have Postman, you can just do this. Let's copy this URL. This is like the normal authentication that we do time to time if you have worked with Auth2. So just copy this and put this URL here. And in here, we want to add on our body, it will be URL form encoded if you have worked with Auth2 before. Then the content type URL form, then the username. We need the username, the password, and the grant type. So for this user, we just say username. The username, we know it's called with BISC. The password is test1234. Test1234. And the grant type, is username, its password. We have different grant types. We have refresh, we have auth code, we have password, we have client services. But for this one, we created a user, and we know the user have a username and password, so we are using this grant type. So let's test this one. Okay, no resource method found for get method. We are supposed to use the post method. Invalid client credentials. Let's send this request. We are getting invalid client credentials, invalid client. So I think I forgot to add the client ID. This one, yeah, we are supposed to send a client ID on our request, and the client ID is the ID that we created. That was the purpose of creating the client, and after doing that, we can send a request. As you can see, we get an access token, and you can use this token to our secure endpoints. So far we did integrate with the Spring. I will show you how we can use this token to test our endpoints in our Spring framework. So this process was to showing you how we can create a user that is managed on Spring Keycloak and to allow single sign-on. So it means on our Spring microservices or projects, we want to integrate to this one. So before I test this one, I want to show you how the refresh token works also. So in here, there's a URL for refresh token. So what you can do, we just copy the same URL like this one and open the Postman. And we need to add the grant type also to be refresh token. As I told you, you have different grant types and the same client ID also. So let's do that. And in our body, URL encoded, client ID, it's refresh token. And in here, our client ID, this one, let's copy this client ID. No, this is grant type. Client ID, this is our client ID, and we need to add our refresh token on this one, on the request. So this is our refresh token. So since we log in here, if you send a request, after you get a refresh token. So you can use this refresh token to get a new access token and another refresh token again. So in here, we just copy this one and put this refresh token, and this is going to be a post method. And let's send a request. You see, we get another access token. So you can use a refresh token to get a new access token. If it's expire after 1 minute, use a refresh token to get another new token. Don't force someone to log in. Just use a refresh token to get a new access token without forcing someone to log in. We just listen to the response code. If it's 401, means the user is no longer authenticated, you can do your refresh token. That's the best way you can do it. So after doing this, I think we have managed to to our Keycloak. So let me show you now how we can add these configurations to our Spring Boot. So on our Spring Boot, we have to copy this dependence. Just copy this dependence, and you can clone the existing project that I developed. You can check it on GitLab, and the link of the repository is in the description. And you can go there to the existing project, and in your POM file, let's add this dependence, which is Spring Starter Security or Auth2 in Spring Boot configuration processor. So after doing that, let's now go back in here. So in your YAML file, we have Spring Profile Production and this. So we want to add these configurations. What is this? You want to know more about this configuration? Let me try to sync the dependencies. Yeah, they are all downloaded. So let's go to our YAML file. So right now we don't have a Spring one, so that's okay. So let's add this configuration. So the profile active, it doesn't matter. So what we are doing in our project, we are now using this Keycloak code with BISC. This is the subdomain that we created, and Auth realms Spring Boot Keycloak. So this is our realm. So Spring Boot Keycloak. So let me show you this realm. This is the realm that we created. This one. This is the Spring Boot Keycloak that we created. So, and we have to add on our JWT auth converter. We want to use this resource ID, which is the client authentication client ID. This is the client ID that we are going to use. So we allow this application to connect to our Keycloak that is running here. So after doing this, let's go in, let's continue. Let's create this one, the JWT converter. So in our Java, let's create a package called configurations or configs. Well, what do you think? And new class, new Java class. This one. And let's copy everything that is in here. For the package name, don't copy it. Just copy everything that is in here. Okay, I think I copied 2 files here. You are not supposed to. Yeah, this one, this is the first one, which is JW auth converter, and as you can see, it's checking for the resource ID and validate our JWT token with the resource server, which is the Keycloak. So after doing this, let's copy. We want to create this one. This is the web security config. So let's create this file. And I can create a package called security. New Java class, and I call it this one. And I can put this one into here, JWT, it's for security. So let's copy what is in here. Maybe the package name might be different. Just copy, don't copy and replace it here, and I'll explain you more about this file. And let's create our Swagger custom config. So this one, right now we have Swagger integrated to our application, but it won't work because of the security, because right now our endpoints are now secure, even the Swagger URL, because we added this dependence, which is Spring Security. So our application requires a JWT token or the access token for it to work for every endpoint. So in here, in our config, let's create a new, let me paste this one. Let me create a new Java class, which is a Swagger config, but it's not part of security though. And let me paste this. So this one, these details are the details of the Swagger that I'm currently of the details of my Swagger, and I added a bearer token to it so that it will create we can paste a JWT token so that our endpoints in Swagger can use that JWT token. So after doing this, let's create a new test controller in here, and in our API, and I can create this one, new Java class, and let me paste everything that is in here. So after doing this, I think we are done now. So if you try to access this, and let's see, the application is running on which port? Okay, this one. Okay, so it's fine. So let's try to run this application. So before I run this application, let me show you let me explain to you our configuration on web security. In web security, we have this URL, which is test anonymous and test admin and this test user. So this one, test anonymous, we allow this URL to be accessed without an access key, like a token, a bearer token, so without authentication. But this one, for you to be able to access this admin, you must have this raw code admin, which is this one. So for you to be able to access this test user, you must have this raw code user. So in here, so I can call this user, let me refactor this, and I call it, rename it to general. So this is the general that we created. So for you to use this endpoint, you must have the raw code general or admin. Or if you remove this admin, it only accessed by a user with a general role. So that's why we assign that user code with BISC a raw code general. So it means BISC, that user will be able to access this endpoint, but must not able to access this one, but can also access this one because it's an anonymous and it's public. So no authentication required. So after doing this, now you understand why we are creating rows. Then in here, we want to allow everything, every endpoint that starts with public, we want them to be allowed without security issue. And we know that we have this Swagger UI that we are using. So for V3 Swagger, we enable the URL that we want to be accessed without security. So Swagger UI URL can be accessed in this one, in these resources and documentation, configuration. All of these are for Swagger. So our app will be able to access. If I remove these, we will not be able to access Swagger. So let me test to run this application with you. And we want to try to access these URLs, and I will show you the errors, the error, the status code that you get if you're trying to run it. As you can see, the application is running. Let's check its port. Usually the port will be in here. It's running on port 9095, and it's running on API integration. So these are two things that you are supposed to note when running a Spring Boot project: a port and the what, and the context path. So if you come here and put your URL, it's running on API integration, Swagger UI, but the port is different. It's supposed to be 9095. Then we can run. As you can see right now, you can see we have managed to have our Swagger running, although there's a security. So this is the purpose of security, so that we can add our access token after we logged in. So let's go to this. This URL are no longer working because of security. So let me go in one of these. We want to test one of these. So for you, test.user, this one, this URL, this one, for us to be able to access the user details, we must be authenticated with a raw code general. So let me try out and see the exception. As you can see, we are not authenticated, and we got this 401, right? So it means you can't access this endpoint unless you have an access token. Let's go to this anonymous and test again. Let's try out. But here I managed to run to this one, and the status code was 200, and the response was hello anonymous, because that URL is public. That's why you are seeing this message, hello anonymous. Let's continue. This one, this admin, the user is supposed to have an admin role. So let me try it again. If we are able to access it, we can't access it because we are not authenticated. So let me try to log in here and get the access token and try to test our user. Now I tried. So I will copy this bearer token, and let's go to our application, to our Spring Boot application. In here, I want to add this bearer token and click authorize, then close this. Let's test now if we are going to get the details of a user that we created on Keycloak. As you can see, we got this user, hello user, code with BISC and code with BISC Gmail. These are the details of this user. As you can see, this user is these details. This is the email, and these are the details that you are seeing. Code with BISC, it means the name and the name and the last name. So let's test the admin. Let's test this admin. After testing the admin, we got 403. It's no longer 401 because we are authenticated, but we don't have permissions to access this endpoint. So we are getting 403. So insufficient scope, or this request require high privileges than provided. So here we sent in general to trying to access this URL, but we didn't manage to access it. So we will get a 403, but we are authenticated. So this is Spring Security developers. I hope you understand the flow, how we can set up Spring Cloak, how we can integrate it to our Spring project. And thank you guys for watching this video. If you are new to this channel, may you kindly subscribe and click the notification bell so that you'll be notified whenever we upload new videos. Salut coders.